But whoever is the leader is going to have to listen to a majority. And we cannot sit back and let some weak leader kind of hold President Trump back. We have got to take the ball and run with it. And we've got to do it quick. We only have a short period of time to fix all this mess that has been put together, not just by Democrats, but also by these neocons and these rhinos that just want to push this agenda down the road. President Trump's got a hard job. We don't need to be a detriment. We need to get out of the way. And if he needs help, we need to help him.
Hey folks, Dale Jackson here for Yellowhammer Now. Let's talk a little bit about the Senate leadership race in Washington, D.C. and where Alabama senators play in this. Katie Britt and Tommy Tuberville are two individuals who are probably going to vote differently on this, although it's a secret ballot, which is stupid, but it's a secret ballot nonetheless. And we'll probably hear maybe where Senator Britt stands on this publicly. We already know where Tommy Tuberville stands on this publicly. But I'm just going to assume that Katie Britt is going to go along with the Mitch McConnell wing of the Republican Party because that is where she is from. And this is not a criticism. It's just a general statement of fact. There are appropriators and there are bomb throwers. And I tend to actually like the bomb throwers more. Tommy Tuberville is a bomb thrower, and that's not to say it's bad. You saw him stand up for Space Command regularly. You saw him stand up against the VA. You see him fight for Trump pretty adamantly, and I think that puts him clearly in the Rick Scott camp. The senator from Florida is sort of the outsider in this, the guy who has not been in Congress for a very long time, and a guy who wants to mix things up. That is exactly where Tommy Tuberville is. Katie Britt, the other senator from the great state of Alabama, is a different type of senator. She is from the Mitch McConnell wing of the Republican Party, and I don't think there is any question about that. We saw that during her run for Senate. She is someone who has been elevated very quickly for obvious reasons to be the face of a lot of movements. Like my friend Leland Whaley in his article points out, and when the IVF issue was coming up, and that started here in the great state of Alabama, Katie Britt was seen as the face of that movement to kind of right that ship, and she was correct. She did exactly the right thing. Went out there, talked to Donald Trump, talked to the press, got that issue, I think, away from where the media was going to try to do this whole Republicans hate women and all this other stuff. Putting a woman's face on that was actually very smart of them, and I think she did an admirable job there. But what Leland Whaley wants, and he writes this in his column, is that he wants Katie Britt to stand up and demand a open ballot, and he wants her to vote for Rick Scott like he believes most Alabamians would do, most Trump supporters would do, and he's right. But she is part of the Mitch McConnell wing of the Republican Party, and so is John Thune from South Dakota, the guy who's probably going to win the whole thing. That's not me saying that. That's Tommy Tuberville saying that. They're all saying it because I think they all know the votes just aren't there for Rick Scott. If I was in that body, would I vote for Rick Scott? Yes. Would I say so publicly? Yes, I would do that as well. But there's a reason why they want these secret ballots, because they don't want to come out and say who they're voting for in these situations, because it makes it far more complicated. And that's what this is really all about. Now, you can have a problem with that, and I think that's completely fair to have an issue with that, but I don't think we should be too surprised by that. They're not going to demand a public ballot. They're just not going to do that. Some of them are not going to tell you who they voted for, and I think that the entrenched interests in Washington, D.C. are probably going to win here, as Tuberville said, and John Thune, the senator from South Dakota, will be the Senate Majority Leader. And I know we'll gnash our teeth on this and we'll scream about it and we'll say that this is terrible and awful and oh my God, look, Tuberville's also right on something as well. Tuberville is saying very clearly that the leader of the Senate is going to be Donald Trump no matter who it is. And that's exactly true. Things have changed from 2016. Mitch McConnell is gone. Okay? He's gone. I guess we'd say 2017. Whether it's John Thune or John Cornyn from Texas, or whether it is Rick Scott from Florida. Hell, it could be Katie Britt or Tommy Tuberville. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump is going to drive this agenda. Okay? He has a mandate, and that mandate is going to be implemented in the first 2 years. Now, were we nibbling around the edges here, depending on if it's Scott or Thune or Cornyn? Probably. So there is no reason to get all animated about this at the end of the day. But I understand the frustrations are there. I think they're just a little overwrought. Trump, as Tuberville said, is going to be the person who's calling the shots for the Republican Party, at least in the first 2 years and probably the last 2 years as well. And whether or not they maintain the majority in that situation will probably be dependent on how good they do in the first 2 years. I think that's pretty clear. So after this whole thing is done and everyone has their fights with their press releases and all this other stuff, just remember the overall agenda is supposed to be the agenda for the American people. And that's the direction that the United States Senate under Republican control, whether it's Rick Scott, John Thune, or John Cornyn, that's the direction they need to go in.